chief guest, esteemed guests of honor, respected director, conference chairs, faculty members, industry leaders, scholars, and participants joining us from across regions and disciplines. It gives us immense pleasure to welcome you to the International Conference on Business, IT, and Enterprise Architecture, ICBIT 2026, hosted by Management Development Institute Murshidabad. In a time when artificial intelligence, digital ecosystems, and enterprise transformation are reshaping the architecture of modern organizations, this conference seeks to bring together scholarship, strategy, and technological foresight.
ICBIT 2026 has been envisioned as a platform for meaningful dialogue, rigorous inquiry. It aims to examine how business strategy, information technology, and enterprise architecture can collectively shape institutions that are resilient, adaptive, and globally relevant. We are deeply honored to have with us leaders whose work reflects the very themes this conference seeks to explore.
To formally commence the inaugural ceremony, it is my privilege to invite Professor Bikramjit Pal, Conference Chair, ICBIT 2026, to deliver the welcome address. Sir, we request you to kindly address the gathering.
Thank you, Sonali. Good morning to all. Good morning, our respected director, sir, Professor Dr. Ajay Jain, our chief guest, Mr. Ajith Nayar, distinguished speakers, esteemed delegates, participants, and dear students. It is my great pleasure to welcome you to the 6th edition of International Conference on Business, IT, and Enterprise Architecture, which is commonly known as ICBIT in the academic fraternity. So we are truly honored to have inspiring gathering of scholars, professionals, researchers, and innovators who have come together to share their knowledge and exchange ideas in this new platform. So thank you all, and I welcome all of you to this 6th edition of ICBIT 2026. With these words, thank you, Sonali. Over to you.
Thank you, sir, for setting the tone for the conference with such clarity and purpose. To present the vision and thematic framework of ICBIT 2026, we now invite Professor Souvik Banerjee, Conference Chair. Sir, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Vishaka. Good morning, everyone. This year's conference theme is Finance and Investment for Nation Building, a Digital Perspective. Finance and investment viewed through a digital lens enable transparent capital allocation and data-driven policy decision for sustainable nation building. Digital financial ecosystems powered by fintech, blockchain, and AI expand financial inclusion and integrate marginalized populations into formal markets. We are joined by thought leaders from AI, finance, and education to listen to them to understand the future roadmap. We are deeply honored to welcome Professor Dr. Ajay Jain, Director MDI Murshidabad, whose visionary leadership continues to inspire academic excellence and institutional growth. We extend our sincere welcome to our chief guest, Mr. Ajith Nayar, Global Chief Executive Officer and co-founder CamCom Technologies, whose global industry insights bring immense value to this forum. We are also privileged to welcome our guests of honor, Mr. Sujit Kumar, Chief Economist, National Bank for Financing, Infrastructure and Development, and Dr. Rajeshwari Narendran, Director, NTPC Business School. So with these words, I hand over to the host. Over to you, Vishaka, and welcome you all.
Thank you, Professor Banerjee, for outlining the intellectual architecture that anchors this conference. It is now our distinct honor to invite Professor Ajay Jain, Director, MDI Murshidabad, to deliver the inaugural address. Under his stewardship, the institute continues to strengthen its academic rigor while expanding its national and international engagement. His leadership has consistently reinforced the values of scholarship, innovation, and institutional excellence. Sir, we request you to kindly address the gathering and formally declare the conference open.
Yeah, good morning to all. Thank you, Sonali, and my heartfelt welcome to all the delegates and the chief guest of the ceremony, Shri Ajith Nayar ji. I met him very recently while I went to invite the governor of West Bengal. We had a good chat, and although he is not a technocrat, but he is able to create a technology-driven company. And welcome to you, sir, and accepting our kind invitation on a very short notice also. But you are the most appropriate person to be the chief guest on this wonderful occasion, because the conference theme is related to finance and technology, and that is what you are doing right now. And the students would also love to listen you also. I also welcome Mr. Shri Sujit ji, who is economist, and this is also a very relevant area in today's world. He passed out from BHU, and where I have a huge devotion with Lord Mahadev, and I celebrated my 50th birthday in the temple of Lord Mahadev, and you come from there probably. And welcome to you all, sir, and students who are participating and supporting my faculty colleague. Thank you so much for inviting me and to deliver inaugural address. Let me quickly begin with few thoughts. First of all, uh, what is the purpose of education? And academic conferences are also meant to drive the education and how the education can reach to all at the end of the day. What do we want to get? Whether it is technology driven education, like now AI is becoming our teacher, and you can see in most of the places, like you can learn English, you can learn technology, you can learn so many things even by simply going on YouTube, and so many applications are coming. But for what? At the end of the day, what do we want? So I am just narrating a shloka from Hitopadesh, my favorite book, and that says, Vidya Dadati Vinayam. So how technology can give you Vinay, I'm not sure, and how we can be more humble uh, after learning something about technology. So Vidya Dadati Vinayam and Vinyadati Patratam. So once you become humble, then you deserve something in your life to get something in terms of materialistic and non-materialistic gains. And Patritvad Dhanapnoti. When you deserve something, you start earning money also. And Dhanad Dharma. And when you earn money, you follow the path of righteousness. In fact, you need money to follow the path of righteousness, the path of Dharma. And Tatam Sukham. Once you follow the path of Dharma, then you gain a lot of happiness, contentment, and satisfaction in your life. So this shloka is covering the purpose of education. It says we must work on earning knowledge, and that will help you to become more humble, and you will become a deserving candidate for dhan. You will earn money, and dharm will lead to dharm, concept of righteousness, what is right, what is not right, what we should do and what we should not do. And then if we are able to follow dharma in our action, then we become happy. So this is the path of education which is clearly mentioned in Hitopadesh. But when we talk about the technology, my only humble submission is that how technology can bring this in our life. So we should, of course, use technology, and it has been used since many days, since you can say since the time of Ramayana and Mahabharata also, and probably we can mention few examples that how technology was interwoven in Mahabharata. Let's say one very good example which I quote of Gandhari, who has given birth to 100 Kauravas. They were not like coming from a single woman, rather they are test tube baby. So after 2 years of pregnancy, she was not able to deliver. So she hit on her stomach and removed the fetus from her stomach. And then Vedavyas did something and then put all these small part of fetus into 100 pitchers, which had the ghee also in that. So they had this technology of test tube baby even Mahabharata time. Then Sanjay, who is narrating the entire Mahabharata to Dhritarashtra, how he is able to see while sitting at distance. So it means he had some, like, what we say, drone, right now, drone technology or satellite technology. So he is able to see that. Then Draupadi, who is not a human being, rather she is a Yagya Kanya. So it means that they are able to develop who looks like human being, like Draupadi. At the same time, they had much more advanced technology, because Draupadi also had so many strong emotions due to which Mahabharata took place. Even today's technology is not able to simulate emotions in robots. Then Pushpak Viman, Rawad has used, and which runs with the speed of Man. Then Naglok, it means you can have time machine, go back in the time. So many examples can be quoted from Mahabharata and Ramayana. It means the technology has always been used. Simple knife which we use in kitchen, simple pulley which we use on the well, they all are very good example of technology. And even when I was studying psychology long back in Lucknow University, we had a subject something called cybernetics, ergonomics. Basically, it talks about the man-machine interface, how a person, a human being, can use technology in a more comfortable manner. So it should not create pain on human being. So what is the relationship between man and machine has also been discussed in this field called cybernetics and ergonomics. And there are theories around, like socio-technical system by Trist, and they talk about that any organization is composite of social element as well as technological element. So when you bring change, organizational change, like GE has given a formula, A is equal to T into C. It means acceptance to change is equal to the amount of technology we are able to adopt, multiplied by the cultural change in the organization, the change in the mindset of the people. So when we say that today is the word of AI, ML, and like blockchain and all this, whether a human being is ready to adopt, and that is what even the Prime Minister recently mentioned, कि we should not be afraid of this. ये भय नहीं, ये भाग्य है. AI is not the bhai, it should not generate fear, rather it should bring good fortune to people. And why do we need technology? It is not related to a single human being. Rather, the advantage of the growth should reach to the common person. That is where technology is needed. And today the word is, it belongs to the digital leadership. And even yesterday I was listening to the news, and there is a uh, probably one report, it's a global intelligence report, they said, and in which they mentioned that 9.2 crore people will lose the job, the loss of 9.2 crore job loss by 2030. But at the same time, the another aspect, that AI will create more jobs, because then you require who can visualize, who can make inspection, who can maybe do the supervisory role. So even technology, AI will create more job for us. But the question again, which is a long standing question, the interface between human being and AI, and how AI can help uh, in our competency building, like soft skill development, like communication skill. We are working on our wisdom, ability to take decision making, how ethics, the concept of dharma can be propagated. So that is where we need. Otherwise, continuously human society has seen several rounds of evolution, industrial revolution, and beginning somewhere in 1760 to 1840, that was a great revolution, industrial revolution at the global level. It was a major turning point that has shifted the societies from agrarian economics to industrialized urban system based on the machine manufacturing and innovation, like steam engine, textile manufacturing, and then textile machinery. This era was basically the beginning point for human being, when the machines were made to assist human being so that we can produce more. So even at that time, similar kind of fear was existing in 1760, like the kind of fear which human being is perceiving today. when AI is taking many role in our society. Then the second revolution was 1870 to 1940, when steel industry, electricity, chemical, internal combustion engine, etc., were emphasized a lot. Then the third and the fourth revolution, which is even like computing, electronics, the current digital and AI driven era. So it is going on. So it is on and on. It will never stop. Only thing, it is human being which has a problem of adopting new things. Then human machine interface also seen lot of changes over so many years, like somewhere beginning in early 20th century, like we call it mechanical and pre-computer era, and where we were using physical components like gears, levers, buttons, and to operate a machine. So like we are pressing the switch, then the lights is on. When we are pressing something, the machine works, correct? Then it is replaced by electrification in the mid 20th century, and these are the like electronic switch were developed, and they have replaced the buttons also. Then computing and command line in 1950 to 1970, like punch cards have come into existence. IBM has developed those punch cards. And then text based command, like many software where we are writing a code and giving the command to the computer, and then it is working, correct? So command based system was developed. Then graphical user interface developed by Xerox at Park Palo Alto Research Center. So it was more like icon based. You just click and then you start operating the computer. Then the touch screen and the digital control has come now recently, and all the machines where we are using touch screen, my laptop, computer, everything is touch screen. Then TV and all these, even refrigerator, everything, even all the machines are by use touch screen. And the modern age which we are seeing is the mobile technology, voice recognition, augmented reality, real time control of machine. So what is the challenge? Challenge is nowhere. Human being has already seen all these changes over the last 200 years. Only thing, this is today's generation which is seeing these changes, like corona, which today's generation has seen. Such kind of incidents has already been in the history, where so many million people died. So we witness these events, we have our own personal fear and insecurity. But if we learn from the history of human technology interface, then we can say the theory exists, and the theory says human being needs to evolve with the evolution of technology, and especially working on the mindset part. And here, what kind of mindset do we need so that we can cope with the technological change? The first thing I will say, human being must develop an ability to unlearn. What we have learned is not relevant at all. Rather, we should go to relearn, re-skilling and upskilling with the updation of technology. The second thing, some ability to take risks, some ability, at least you should be able to go beyond your comfort zone, so that you can start adopting and appreciating the role of technology in the life. The third thing, try to make things simple also and useful, and whatever we adopt, it should be usable for all of us. Don't try to say, oh, it is too complex to control. The human mind basically make things simple and simpler, which can be used by even uneducated men. India is witnessing that technological revolution, because I remember even in parliament, the one of the former finance minister has made this comment: Indians are uneducated, how they will operate with the technology. Even we do not have electricity, but look at that, all the uneducated people of India, those who are not even literate, they are using so well the technology. Even the digital transaction, the way we are using phone pay, Google Pay, and all this. I am right now located in Murshidabad, and when I am going taking the my you can say I'm going by this NH12 from Murshidabad to Kolkata, taking even a cup of tea, sitting on a small shop, smallest one that makes only tea and biscuits. they are also keeping that, where we can pay money. So how the technology is so well adopted by Indian? So it is a myth. You need to be literate the way we were literate, like Baba Black Sheep. That literacy is not literacy. Rather, literacy is that how we are versed with technology. But more important for people like us who are at the leadership role is also that how the technology can help in our continuous learning. Thanks to this technology, during Corona, I come across with several YouTube channel like Dr. Harinivas Tiwari. Look, he is principal of Swami Narayan College of Arts in Gujarat, in Ahmedabad. I come to know about his channel and I learned the entire Ramayana, Valmiki Ramayana, Mahabharat, Srimad Bhagavat only through his channel. If this technology was not there, how I would have been able to learn? So it means technology is providing you opportunity. Only thing, we should be focused what we would like to learn, rather just rolling on the screen and changing the screen continuously and seeing these videos, and these are small thing. It is creating the problem. We should be little bit more judicious, and Swami Vivekanand has already emphasized that if we want to live a happy and healthy life, we must increase the level of concentration and our attention. Today's problem that we are not able to pay attention on one single thing, rather trying to pay attention on many things, and it creates a lot of anxiety and fear in us because of death. It is leading to depression in the society, and I'm very upset to see so many bad news around me, like children are committing suicide.
আমার
So
ইয়ে জয়েন করেছে
so these things are the challenge when the technological change take place. The change in the necessary change is required even human in the human mindset. So I think the during this conference, I request that we should focus our attention on both. On the one hand, yes, technology is important. No way we should criticize it. We have adopted since the time of Wright brothers and steam engine time, and penicillin has been developed. So technology has always supported human being, and due to which we are getting so many advantage. But this is our challenge, the challenge of the mindset. We should be more resilient and optimistic, and try to make the technology simple so it can be beneficial to the society, and it can bring down the kind of violence which we are seeing at the global level. And again, the goal of human society, peace and prosperity, how technology can be an aid to bring peace and prosperity. So thank you very much for giving me this opportunity, and I wish you all the very best to the conference organizer, Dr. Souvik, Dr. Bikramjit Pal, and Yogita Madam. I wish you all the very best. Thanks to your effort, and look forward to listen the chief guest and other guest of honor.
Thank you, sir, for your inspiring reflections and for reaffirming the Institute's commitment to intellectual leadership. We are now privileged to invite our chief guest, Mr. Ajith Nayar, co-founder and chief executive officer of CamCom. Mr. Nayar is widely recognized as a technology entrepreneur who has redefined the application of artificial intelligence in enterprise ecosystems. Under his leadership, CamCom has pioneered AI-driven computer vision solutions and enabled predictive and visual inspections across manufacturing, automotive, infrastructure, and heavy industries. His work exemplifies the seamless integration of deep technology with operational strategy. By translating complex AI frameworks into scalable enterprise solutions, he has demonstrated how innovation must move beyond conceptual promise to measurable impact. His journey stands as a compelling example of how leadership, technological foresight, and entrepreneurial resilience can collectively shape the next generation's enterprises. Sir, we are honored by your presence and request you to kindly address the gathering.
Um,
Thank you very much for the invitation to participate in this conference to start with. Dr. Bikramjit Pal, Dr. Souvik Banerjee, Dr. Ajay Jain, the other guest of honor, Dr. Rajeshwari Narendran, Dr. P.K. Biswas, Mr. Sujit Kumar, and Dr. Yogita Abichandani. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. My greetings to the distinguished faculty, scholars, industry leaders, and students. I think most of you are pretending that this is not a Friday afternoon, but let me bring you back to reality. It is a good morning. Okay. A lot of the encomiums that have been heaped on me during the introduction, I'm not very sure I'm worthy of a lot of that. I had the opportunity to meet Dr. Jain in Delhi, as he mentioned, and I'm a backbencher. So if at all there is anything that I can say, I should probably be a good example to backbenchers that they can make something out of life. Now, this particular topic, finance, investment, and nation building, a digital perspective, is not something that you normally find being talked at large and being debated and deliberated on in various management institutions. But I guess MDI brings a different perspective always, because your focus has always been on finance, investment, and nation building. And as Dr. Souvik at the beginning mentioned, this is at the convergence of what the next AI revolution is most likely going to be. Because of which, and this is something that I spoke about, I think last week at the India AI Summit. Today there is a paradox. Okay, we are probably the first generation in history that fears the intelligence we created more than the stupidity that we inherited. For centuries, we feared famine, then war, and the students may not probably understand this much, but definitely the people who are in their 30 to 50 or 60 age group will understand this. We actually feared nuclear annihilation, right? The whole thing about MAD, or mutually assured destruction. Today, we fear algorithms. And yet, every algorithm that we fear is written by somebody who, in an academic context, who probably missed a submission deadline, blamed the Wi-Fi for it, and asked for an extension from the faculty. So the question is, why do we fear this when we know very well that it has been written by one of us, right? And that actually should be of a lot of comfort to everybody, right? The theme today, again, I repeat, finance and investment for nation building, a digital perspective. Now, nation building is definitely not built on emotion. It is built on systems. Okay. We have all learned in history about people of Rome, making these loud speeches, etc. But Rome did not become the world conqueror. It became because of speeches. It became because of the roads and the aqueducts that the Romans built across vast areas of the Western world. We have a closer example right here, the British Empire, incidentally, which started off in Murshidabad, the East India Company. They did not expand because of poetry, right? They expanded because they built shipping routes, introduced in some way or the other maritime insurance and accounting discipline. The East India Company did not defeat kingdoms first, right? I mean, for those of you in Murshidabad already know that. It defeated the financial systems. History is fairly clear on one thing. Empires are built on architecture that they create, not necessarily, and most definitely not on arrogance. Finance is institutional trust quantified. That's why we trust banks. That's why we trust legacy. Now, investment is belief in that structural ability. You and I go and put money in a bank because we believe in the structural stability of that institution. And when we today talk about UPI and everything else, which is digital finance, we are talking about trust that has to be built at scale. Now, if we go back into history, Indian history, for example, if I may take Chanakya, they definitely did not have cloud computing, I'm quite sure. But what he did understand was what I would call networked intelligence, right? It essentially created an architecture, taxation architecture, with the ability for information to flow up and down, right? Some months ago, I was actually at some of the most famous temples in Tamil Nadu. I had the opportunity to visit them. And I was being told by the guide who was taking me around that temples in those days across India, not just Tamil Nadu, were financial institutions. And he was pointing out to me some of the slabs that were put up there, which essentially had the amount of money that was lent by the temple authorities or the temple administrators to, for example, aid farmers, and for those who were actually setting off on a voyage to Srivijaya, which is today's Bali. And that's not an Indian thing alone. I mean, monasteries in medieval Europe were very much land banks in that sense, right? When civilizations rise, their financial systems are stable. They decline because the systems that ran that have become brittle. In today's world, again, going back to the India AI Summit, temples are data centers. The most amount of money that's currently going into building infrastructure in India are going into data centers. Our ledgers have become digital, obviously, and our coins, the paisa, the rupee, are all code in one sense or the other. And the priests are compliance officers, which a lot of you at some point in time will also become. Now, that definitely is progress, without doubt. That definitely is progress, mostly, right? Some of the questions that come to my mind, and I mentioned that in a humorous vein on LinkedIn as well, in terms of what I would think are the questions that need to be asked when we look at creating this architecture. Digital finance reduces transaction friction, which is great. I mean, I think Dr. Jain just spoke about him traveling on the NH and having literally everybody there, having a UPI code through which he could make payment for even a chai, right? But it increases data concentration. Now, day before yesterday, I was at an event where I had the privilege of sharing a stage with Dr. Gurumurthy. And as we were discussing, one of the questions that came up from the audience was from a young man who happened to be the chief manager of the South Indian Bank in Kerala. He was talking about CIBIL. Okay. Now, CIBIL, as most of you know, and you should know, since you're all from MDI, essentially decides in one way or the other, not a human, as to whether somebody is worthy of credit or not. Now, it was started, I think, as a joint venture between Experian or TransUnion, I'm not sure, one of the US credit agencies, and the State Bank of India and HDFC and I think Axis. Now, over a period of time, they essentially built up the corpus, and today are the final arbiters on whether 70 crore Indians are eligible to avail credit. But in the last 6-7 years, and that is what this young gentleman was calling our attention to, is that CIBIL is no longer, the majority stake is not owned by India. It is actually owned by the parent company in the United States. And it is that company that today defines and decides whether we are eligible for credit or not. And he had a very valid question there, which is the ethics of it. Not as much from the data concentration part, but he was talking about how his parents and probably his parents before his grandparents never actually availed credit. They saved, maybe disposed of some property, maybe some landed assets, and invested in the newer assets. So they really had no debt. Today, if there are people in my generation and of course coming generations who probably may believe in the same, they don't want to take debt. However, it comes to a stage where they have to take debt and they go to a bank and they are by all means solid in as far as their financials are concerned. But just because of the fact that there is no civil record of them having availed debt in the past, there is every likelihood that they will be denied. So the digital finance, while it reduces transaction friction, it also increases data concentration. And in the past, empires controlled land, so there was a sovereign power associated with it. Today, institutions control information flows. Now, from my perspective, and everybody has been saying this all over the world, data is the new oil. I'm sorry, I disagree, or I agree to disagree. Data is not the new oil. Data is the new leverage. The geography of intelligence is actually shifting faster than the geography of ethics. Now, a lot of you might be wondering, why is a guy who's working in saying this? And I'll come to that for sure. We can approve loans or credit in milliseconds, but disputes still take years. We predict credit risk with machine learning. But going back to the previous example that I said, are we in a position to algorithmically guarantee dignity of the person who actually has never taken credit in his life and wants to do it the first time just because he has not taken it in the past? We essentially deny it to him. So we deny him the dignity that is due to him as a human. So I posit that technology definitely increases efficiency, but it does not automatically increase fairness. And fairness is a design decision, which brings me back to the focus of this conference, because it talks about enterprise architecture. And I kind of now understand to a certain extent why Dr. Jain said that I may be a good person to talk about this. Because architecture is discipline. Architecture asks very boring plebeian questions. What happens if this fails? Who owns this data? Who is accountable? And of course, how do we integrate it scale? Now, in Indian Itihasa, there is Vishwakarma, the divine architect. He's not the divine influencer, he's a divine architect, because also remember that Mayan created the Lac Palace. Now, civilizations remember architects longer than trendsetters, for all the right or wrong reasons. I mean, recently we removed the statue of Edwin Lutyens from Lutyens Delhi, as it is actually known. But that was more a historical correction, right? But we remember Lutyens. Now, enterprise architecture is in many ways Vishwakarma in an Excel form. It's a spreadsheet. Because without it, digitization becomes decoration. With it, it becomes durability. Digitization becomes durability. Fintech, I mean, everybody talks about fintech now. That's glamour. But the enterprise architecture behind it, ask Nandan Nilekani and the team that worked on India Stack and UPI, enterprise architecture is a plumbing. And without plumbing, it'll fail. And plumbing, though very rarely photographed because it doesn't lend itself to being photographed, actually is what keeps civilizations alive. I mentioned about Nandan and some of the most ambitious things that he and his team, India Stack, and I have also had the privilege and honor to be associated in a small way with them, because I'm currently in the process of working with the same team to create India's quality DPI, digital public infrastructure for quality checks. India's digital public infrastructure strategy is probably one of the most ambitious in the world, and we have actually delivered it as well, right? Aadhaar and UPI has transformed India in many ways, because digital identity has kind of transformed inclusion, right? We essentially, in some way or the other, brought about dignity to the human. But then scale also introduces responsibility, because when we talk about UPI catering to 1.4 billion people, errors are not bugs, they're social events, right? If it fails, we have a huge problem on our hand. So we have to be that careful, and that is why architecture becomes extremely important. And by extension, finance is not merely an economic infrastructure. It is the very social oxygen that we breathe and keep all of the society thriving. And if it gets polluted, obviously, society will suffocate with it. Talking of suffocation brings me to COVID. COVID actually compressed 5 years of change that humans would have evolved in that 5 years into just one, right? Suddenly, Tata, Ajji, grandparents across the world learned QR codes. I think Dr. Jain mentioned about learning Valmiki Ramayana through a YouTube channel. Boardrooms went remote. I mean, as a matter of fact, I am actually doing the same right now. We are talking, I am in Kerala, you're in Murshidabad, and people have logged in from Mumbai and other places. We built digital bridges at astonishing speed. Astonishing speed. Then again comes the paradox, right? This digitization, without doubt, increased efficiency. Did it increase meaning? Did it actually increase the meaning of human interactions? Though we kind of clubbed everything into 5 years, into 1 year, what could have taken 5 years? I run CamCom. I have the privilege of leading 103 brilliant people. When remote work expanded opportunity, multiple questions came up. One question that my HR had asked me is, after the third or the fourth month, she came back and told me, Ajith, productivity, though it has increased in terms of math, productivity in terms of actual human innovation and thinking has lessened, because social interaction is not there. So while it expanded opportunity, did it actually deepen community? Nation building must not be confused as velocity with value. Velocity impresses markets. I'm what they still call a startup. And typically the most important question that most people who are interested in us, either as investors or customers, are, okay, what is your velocity? What is the kind of growth that you have shown, right? But if you look at companies that have sustained itself over a period, they have created value. It is not just velocity, it is a value that sustains societies. And in that, finance amplifies. Of course, finance amplifies growth, but it amplifies inequality. We talked about CIBIL earlier. I said, see, algorithmic lending increases access, but if poorly designed, as that young man pointed out, it increases exclusion, in an invisible way. At times we don't even understand that it is increasing exclusion. For example, I or Gurumurthy sir or nobody in that audience would have actually understood it had it not come from that young man who was essentially a banker himself. So while machine learning predicts probability, many a time it does not understand context. And a nation is built on context. A nation cannot be built without context. Efficiency without empathy becomes extraction, right? And optimization without accountability becomes fragility. I have a four-legged companion, a dog. Okay, his name is Prabhakaran. Yeah, he is one of the very few dogs who cries more than he barks. And he's my muse in many ways. I keep having these long conversations with him because he comes and sits next to me, on my dining table bench. And many a time I wondered what if I could get into his head, what would he be thinking about the world? He has no digital wallet, no credit score, no Aadhaar, no KYC. But my God, does he sleep peacefully? Something that I am unable to do. And maybe telepathy or otherwise, I don't know. Somehow he tells me that in his world, trust is embodied. Trust is embodied in as far as he is concerned. Nature has given him the ability to understand instability. He kind of, I don't know, senses it instantly, because I think dogs detect anxiety faster than economists detect recession. Let's be clear, because animals understand things that we don't. Now, if I take the same thing to us, in our inability, today we have become so dependent that we trust code more than neighbors. I'm not romanticizing the past. Please don't get me wrong. Yeah, I'm definitely not romanticizing the past. Change is inevitable. Change is the only constant in this world. And having said that, I absolutely enjoy UPI. I don't think I have actually carried cash in the last maybe 6-7 years. And mostly in India, yeah? By the way, the rest of the world still absolutely insists on cash in most places. But if digital finance increases efficiency while reducing human trust, we gain GDP for sure, without doubt, and lose cohesion. Now, cohesion, as I said earlier, much like values, are what sustains nations, right? If Prabhakaran's world is very simple, ours is amazingly complex. And the need for trust becomes important. And how do we build trust if we don't even know our own neighbors? It's a question that we all ought to ask ourselves. Now, when Dr. Jain and I had a conversation in Delhi, we talked about Murshidabad. And I can't think of a better institution than yours to actually have this conversation. Because Murshidabad was once one of the wealthiest regions in the world, right? The home of the Jagat Seth, a person who essentially lent money to the East India Company, to the Nawabs, to the Mughal Empire, long before I think the likes of Rothschild and others became, names that we all take. It witnessed financial dominance, colonial restructuring, and economic decline more or less in a period of, I think, 150 years. So, if there is any place that actually has to talk about the convergence of finance, digitization, and AI, and how this is essentially changing the world, I think Murshidabad is probably the place it should start, because it has been at the receiving end of this not so far in the distant future. So in that sense, Dr. Jain, I'm very happy that this institute is actually not just merely producing managers, but it's encouraging structural thinking. Now, structural thinking is very rare because relevance is harder than reputation. Relevance is definitely harder than reputation. And nation building requires relevance, right? And again, going back to the plumbing, if we are going to build digital finance systems specifically focused on nation building, I think some of the questions that we need to ask, and I'm sure a lot of the students who are part of this particular conference will play a critical, significant role in making India move to the next level. To you, the front benchers, middle benchers, and the back benchers, some questions that I have are, when you design something, are we designing for scale or are we designing for dignity? Because as I said earlier, scale without dignity is extraction. Dignity without scale becomes inefficiency. Now, nation building needs both. We spoke about Rome and the aqueducts and the roads. They had scale. When Gandhi launched the Quit India movement, he was talking about dignity. Dignity for the human. Modern India and what you will build in the future must encode both into this architecture. Because when we build financial rails, compliance engines, credit systems, we are actually not just writing software or program managing or product managing or embedding that into everyday life. We are actually embedding values. And values, once embedded in that architecture, become the invisible power that makes nation sustain. If your system is so efficient that it forgets the human being, well, congratulations, you built a machine. If your system becomes so compassionate that it collapses under the load, well, congratulations again, you have written a poem. A nation cannot run on machines alone. Neither can it run on poetry alone. It must run on principled architecture. Let me be clear or as well. I do not stand here as someone who claims to understand the future. Okay, I definitely don't. Anyone who claims certainty about the digital future is either selling something, like most AI companies today are, or underestimating complexity. They're either selling something or underestimating complexity. We, as Indians, our responsibility is not to predict perfectly. There's no way that anybody can predict perfectly. After all, none of us are Nostradamus. It is to design responsibly. You see, history does not punish ambition. It absolutely does not punish ambition. And I'm sure 100 names would have already come to your mind when I said that line. But what it does is it punishes arrogance. Here again, that line, it punishes arrogance, 100 names would have automatically come to your mind. Therefore, let me leave you with this. A great nation is not built when transactions become frictionless, right? It is built when progress becomes humane. Scale gives us strength. Dignity gives us legitimacy. Together, they give us a future. Only together do they give us a future. So, if I were to compress it into one line, I would say design for scale, code for dignity. If in this entire monologue that I have essentially put you through today morning, and that too on a Friday, if you remember one thing, remember this. If fintechs make billionaires faster than it makes citizens safer, you have optimized the wrong variable. If fintech makes billionaires faster than it makes citizens safer, you have optimized the wrong variable. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been a pleasure to have been given this opportunity. I rest my case now, and I look forward to your feedback, to your questions. Thank you very much. Jai Hind, Vande Mataram.
Thank you, sir, for that insightful and forward-looking address. Your reflections on AI-enabled enterprise systems have added immense value to today's deliberations.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you.
We now invite Mr. Sujit Kumar, Chief Economist at the National Bank for Financing Infrastructure and Development. Mr. Kumar brings substantial expertise in macroeconomics, econometrics, financial research, and strategic economic planning. Over the years, he has contributed significantly to policy-oriented research and infrastructure financing frameworks that are central to national development. His analytical work bridges theory with practice, offering insights into capital formation, fiscal strategy, and long term infrastructure growth. In a world where economic resilience and strategic investment determine competitive strength, his perspective assumes particular relevance. Sir, we are honored by your presence and request you to kindly address the gathering.
And
Thank you.
students, if you have any questions to any of our speaker, please note down and share in the chat box. Okay. Yeah. Sorry, Surajji, please carry on.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Jain, Mr. Nayar, Dr. Rajeshwari, Dr. Viswas, Dr. Paul, all of you. In fact, it's indeed very good morning to me because I have the blessings of so many of thought leaders at one place in an area where even if I wish not to look at, I have to, because that's where the value is getting created. And as an economist, we do have a job and responsibility both to not only look at where value is getting created, but how that value is distributed. So Mr. Nair rightly emphasized on the part of equity and efficiency, and how technology has to be blended in for both if you want to build for aspiration something like developed nation, Viksit Bharat that we are thinking. For the student community, just to be make it a little easier. It's very easy to get lost in terms of the big tech narrative that we are, I would say, bombarded every day and night. The threat about AI displacing jobs. This story has played out many times before. It's nothing new. And as Professor Jain had started with the reflection on how Luddite movement in London, in Manchester specifically, that was again a revolt against adoption of technology. But mankind has often proven all the skeptics wrong in terms of their ability to synthesize what is coming new vis-a-vis the traditions that have informed us, that has helped us survive. So taking based of both, whether that is the incoming technology or the time-tested traditions, we have to move forward, and that is where the institutions like MDI have an edge, because they have you have the privilege, you have this responsibility to not only look at the new knowledge that is being created, but also to train new generation how to make best use of it and how to take it forward. Now, I will revert to the theme of the conclave because it's about blending finance and technology. So, see, I think the change is nowhere more visible than in finance when it comes to technology operating at a scale. Uh, I remember I started my career around 2010-11, and back then the buzzword used to be smack. Social media, mobile, you can say cloud and analytics. The SMAC was the buzzword to go by, and the banks which were a little aggressive on building these capabilities, they seem to have captured bigger part of the young generation customer that came by. But middle of 2010s, a policy change happened. The policy pivot was nothing but Jan Dhan Yojana. So when Prime Minister announced that in a matter of 100 days you have to open 30 crore accounts, it was just not about getting youngster on board. It was banking a billion. Back then it was the call, banking a billion which are left unattended, unserved, underserved by mainstream financial ecosystem. So that policy pivot introduced more than 50 crore actually new account holders to the banking system. This scale is as big as Indian banking had accrued over 100 years, and that happened over next not, I would say, not more than 1 year. So that kind of scale got absorbed by the banking system and it's getting served. While benefits, we can differ about the kind of impact it has created or the kind of the habits it has generated for the newly banked population. We can't argue against that. Had technology not been in place, whether you would have been really able to absorb that kind of influx. So efficiency has to be also weighed against what would have been the counterfactual. Had not been, had Indian banks not be on the tech platform by then, you just can't imagine the kind of scale it would have required in terms of staffing your branches, moving logistics here and there. Virtually impossible to get this done. So India is actually leapfrogging on many counts, and technology is the first one I would say to leapfrog. You can't just live through the experiences of the Western world, which had the luxury of 200 years of or 300 rather years of uncontested evolution. We had our policy priorities decided by somebody else for much of 17th and 18th century. 19th century, obviously, again we lost in the race of productivity, diffusion of technology, and specifically the domestic enterprise. And Professor Jain had given that color. Mr. Nayar also talked about the world of Jagat Seths and how that interacted with both politics and the society at large. What we need to understand right now is that in talking in 2026, that SMAC world has given way to something more. In 2020s, in fact, just before COVID, the talk was about what we call DARK. So DARK acronym was D for distributed ledger technology, what you call blockchains, right? And the cryptocurrencies which followed eventually from there. A was for the artificial intelligence, which has become again the biggest buzzword we talk about. No speech will be complete without mentioning AI and the role it is going to play. The R was, if you remember, Facebook had made a transition to what you called Meta. And behind that Meta, something which was positioned as a next revolution was virtual reality, virtual augmented reality we talked about. So R was for the reality. Reality could be, constructed or manufactured. Not it is different from what we live in. So that was the theme that was playing out. And the Q was about quantum, right? So quantum technology was something which was supposed to power our next leap forward in future. We can't negate the transition that has happened. Smack midway for the dark, and dark is now being eclipsed by the AI narrative that we are talking about. What is essential to understand is that what pieces of those technologies are going to become eventually used by 8 billion humans that walk on the planet. So while some of them may be reserves of boardrooms and the tech enthusiasts across the globe, what eventually matters to us is what pieces are going to percolate downstream, which are going to change the way we live, right? So internet was very well known in 1960s and 70s also to some extent, but it was a reserve of privileged few. By 1990s, it has become obvious that there is a business case for scaling it up, so more people can be onboarded. And by 2026, we take it for granted. You can't just live beyond without internet. Just fright. In fact, we are fearful the moment our mobile gets disconnected. The 2-hour journey that we take in a flight is really you can just glance around how people are managing their time. If you are disconnected from internet, it seems that your existence is itself at risk. So that has happened, right? And it is going to happen with other technologies also. Now, all the cautions which Mr. Nayar was nudging us to, we must exercise, because unrestrained, whether it is technology or finance, does more harm than good. So we have to build right, I would say, checks and balances when it comes to whether it is the diffusion of technology or whether the empowering certain people to exercise your financial choices. This has happened in a very thoughtful way, conscious way. Unregulated finance has also, why we should go that far in history. You can just remember why 2007 global financial crisis happened. It was just a case of unrestrained finance going. I mean, so there is a lesson. Back home in India, we have also seen how many chit funds, cooperative banks, and some large scale NBFCs, how they destroyed value. Savings were lost, and people had to save by different means. So there is a reason why conscience needs to meet technology, and then technology can inform how we can perform business better and improve our lives better. Now, I can't, avoid talking about infra because that's the space where I, work in. And I can tell you, in finance, essentially the battle which still needs to be waged for is about, bringing efficiency to reduce the intermediation cost. Why is it so important? Think of your banks. All banks are today priding themselves in serving you and still having a net interest margins closer to 4%. Now, in a world where you are allowed to compete, net interest margin of 3% and upwards is a sign of inefficiency, not efficiency. Why? Because eventually the cost is being borne by whom? Those who are going to borrow are borrowing at a higher rate. Those who could have been compensated better for their savings are being compensated less. And this inefficiency is thriving because I would say there is a regulatory protection. Had it been open to competition, it would have gone away. So when fintechs arrived on scene in, let's say, late 2015s, there was a promise that these fintechs are going to cut away the slack that is still there in the system. And eventually, those who are unbanked or underbanked because of the high cost structure of Indian banking will have a say. Will have eventually access to credit. Mr. Nayar was beautifully articulating about the CIBIL. The CIBIL story is worth re-examining. It's not just from the control perspective, which is indeed important, where data sits and how data can be used for or against. But the important point to know is that the CIBIL architecture took almost 2 decades to build. And when banks started trusting CIBIL, they started delegating the trust into algorithm. Today, lots of personal loans which are being disbursed at a click of, they are being powered by that information. The information about your transaction behavior, the information about the financials which are stored in some or other way. And that is where the analytics is informing a bank whether to take a credit exposure or not. But think of people who are just becoming familiar with the financial mainstream, whether building the transaction habit via Jain and others. For them to reach to a level where banks will again begin to trust them for lending is a tall ask. We have seen this. While we are priding that so much of trillions of rupees have come to banks in form of additional savings deposits because of these 50 crore plus Jan Dhan customers, of which more than 2/3 are women. We cannot shy away from the fact that still a great percentage of our borrowers are getting their needs met from informal sources. Now this is the paradox. You have a system which prides itself in being universal. You have the digital stack which is being I would say people are jealous of what India has achieved when it comes to Aadhaar or mobile or the financial inclusion numbers. But it is also a fact that a greater percentage of our population still is dependent on meeting their credit needs from informal sectors. Now, how do we gel these together? There was some promise, some time back when the thought came about what you call account aggregators. The idea was that when you have a platform where everybody can chip in with their information and the information flows to the person who have the better value for it, and eventually the intermediation cost can be brought down. That has not taken place. The response is not what it was anticipated. Now, this is where we have to think about solutions which are more, I would say, customer centric. And the point of that, the next billion, which was supposed to become mainstream and contribute towards value creation, eventually gets what's due to them. Right? Infra, in fact, is specifically talking about digital infra, which is going to power much of the changes over time. This is India's moment. There is no denial of it. Having 1.4 billion people and governed as one unit, and then within which the largest segment of population on planet below 30 years of age. It's a boon we can't wish away, and we don't want to. But we will eventually also age. That is also reality. So how do we build systems which takes this cohort forward as a beneficiary of the growth and the well-being which is going to come to us as we evolve from $4 trillion economy to $30 trillion economy over time. Now these are the times when businesses need to be structured better. They need to be more conscient. The tech players need to be more conscient in terms of devising solutions which are informing businesses, and the institutions, both institutions like mine, let's say NAFID, it's a DFI, Development Finance Institution, and MDI, which is an academic premier institution in India. We also have a responsibility to nurture people for those kind of transitions which are waiting for us. Now, these are few thoughts that I wish to leave, because it's a day-long conference, and many speakers will be there who would be dissecting different trends which is happening in tech space and how tech is meeting finance. I mean, the message is very clear. The question is less about opportunity and more about how you mold it. Technology is there. People at large have shown they are more flexible than many of us would have bet on. They have, in fact, taken to the technology. See, my father is 75-year-old, and I introduced smartphone to him in somewhere around 2016, right? So he was again in senior citizen age by then. It didn't take him much to learn the basics of it, and what all he is able to achieve today because of that smartphone access, unthinkable, I can tell you. He's able to operate his bank account in 60s. My concern is that somebody, cybersecurity has become such a big thing. It always, keeps getting on our nerves. So my concern is that someday he should not get the darker side of technology, being exposed to those risks. But the convenience it has introduced in his life, let's say simple, what you call life certificate for pensioners. Now, the toil it used to take for a retiree to get their life certificate updated for continuation of their pensions, it's solved in a way that he doesn't have to bother even moving. So see how technology brought convenience, but also technology has made him vulnerable in a way which he's not even seized of. Now, who needs to guard the guardians? Those who are entrusted to build trust in system, there should be some guard over them also. How do we protect the most vulnerable? Somehow we have enticed them to be part of this tech journey, but have we ensured that the downsides are capped? Now, these are all problems waiting to be solved. I won't say we have solved everything, but there is a big space for us to intervene from the tech perspective in making our businesses become better at what they are really doing, and also takes a society along. The next billion people should come along to join this journey. They should not fall out of it. So that's where I would stop. I will urge all of you to participate in this day-long conversation and inform us better. And we are waiting to hear you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir, for your comprehensive and analytical rich insights. It is now a privilege to introduce Professor Rajeshwari Narendran, Director of NTPC School of Business. Professor Narendran begins with her extensive experience in academic leadership, education management, faculty development, and institutional formation. Her professional journey reflects a deep commitment to building specialized management education aligned with sectorial realities, particularly in the energy domain. At NTPC School of Business, she has played a pivotal role in strengthening executive education, industry integration, and research driven pedagogy. Her work underscores the importance of aligning managerial capability with national priorities in infrastructure and energy development. Through her leadership, she continues to shape institutions that are both industry responsive and academically rigorous. Ma'am, we are delighted to have you with us and request you to kindly address the gathering.
Good morning and namaskar, everyone. It's a proud privilege to be speaking in presence of the various stalwarts here, including Professor Jain, Ajith ji, Sujit ji, Sonali, Yogita, everybody there, Dr. Souvik, and the august audience over here. It's a proud privilege to be addressing this gathering. Of course, business, IT, and enterprise architecture. That's what we are focusing today in this entire conference. I, coming from a social behavior scientist background, I would definitely try to bring a different perspective because, having been following certain trends in the society and every other thing, if I see that, what can I bring to the table? Definitely is that India is having the digital dividend at this time. There is a demographic dividend also, which is there, having a large part of our population as the youth, and their engagement and their positive contribution to India 2047 Viksit Bharat, which we are looking at, matters a lot. But there has to be a line. advent of AI, the technology, the kind of divides we have. If we have a demographic dividend, we also have a kind of issue with, that by 2047, what would be the kind of, the population that we would be having? Would we be having more medical challenges? Would we be having geriatric problems by that time? Or do we look into the health now to protect India's interest at that time when we would be at 2047? There are so many questions and there are so many ecosystems. The narrative has changed in the country in the last 10, 15 years, 20 years, that we see that how India was getting ready to be, rocking the world with so many things into it. And even there was a time when India had a brain drain, but now there is reverse of that happening in multiple way, where everybody who had been at the Silicon Valley has suddenly started thinking, I need to contribute to India. That kind of a callback of home is there, homecoming is there. And people at 40, they have earned enough. I want to have a good life at India back. That also is happening. Why I am giving all these narratives? Because that is setting the entire tonality of the development of our country. Let me now talk about this, the narrative of small businesses changing. We started the Lijjat Papad became a kind of, the story for everyone, that a woman, the group of women sitting at home making papad and badi, how they changed the narrative of women coming, though being illiterate, though being less literate, but how they changed the narrative of establishing a big business. That were all the inspiration people were drawing. And suddenly there was a call that we are ready with, Mudra Yojana, or, the kind of Make in India, or all types of ecosystem which needed to tell the woman that you are sitting at home, you still can contribute to the economy. You can do your part from home. So digital marketing to small apparel businesses to, having small things at home and decoratives and what all they have not done. So, see this transition. I am, compelled here to tell you one thing, that in 2009, I visited Vietnam, and there was, in the morning, around the Hanoi city where I was, there were women right in the morning, 6 o'clock, they're selling the breakfast, 90, 95, 96, 97-year-old ladies with a baby, small baby sitting, and then having this eggs or omelette or kind of dumplings to be served. And I asked that why at this age they have to be doing. So the one of the lady interpreter asked one lady who was a 97-year-old, and she asked, then she said, I love my country and I should not be an economic burden to my country. So I am earning small bit of my living. Look at that kind of a point, and I am very happy. Coming back, I told the story and we changed the narrative to many women sitting at home, that still you can be the earning pocket size money for yourself and you will not be an economic burden to anybody. So that's a liberating thought, It's a liberating thought. Then coming to, going back to basics, India started looking at what are our strengths, whether it is our grain, going back to millets, having a kind of a healthy India, yoga getting, into the world forum and everybody accepting it as a health dynamics. And we were able to see that internationalization of Indian thought processes, Indian knowledge system, acceptance has come. So you see that what all, had been there in a spectrum of activity in the entire panorama of India's image, India's economy, India's contribution. How can we forget what happened in COVID when many countries were, failing in so many things? India made it a co-win situation. It was WIN. It was not VID. So co-win situation came because we were not only able to control and see that how the pandemic doesn't impact the millions and billions of people that we have as a population, but also saw that becoming generously helping countries with the vaccination. Nobody thought that the pharma industry in India can do the magic that even big economies weren't able to do it. right? So, how things have really been very, very positive. But also, let us see that how the various world leaders were amazed by the, Paytm or a kind of a small UPI app where Prime Minister taking Macron to one place and showing that, see, a smallest vendor is doing, a chai wala is taking the money through UPI, that how this digital banking has come into India with UPIs enabled in a mobile banking and supported systems. So those all parts have made India rising kind of a thing, and a very good feeling that we are here. And I, coming from a energy background, we are the fourth largest energy generator company in TPC, and so aggressively moving into energies, every vertical, whether it is renewable energy in terms of green hydrogen, or whether it is biofuel, or whether it is taking EV into account, or having sustainability drives, or creating an ESG framework, or creating the infra where PM Surya Ghar Yojana, or the kind of rooftop solar, and aggressively moving into every bit of the part where public private participation has also become a reality. See, what can be the best example, or like a rooftop solar, how it can be clean cooking, how can be a carbon management. None of us thought that there would be any time in India where a vehicle would come every day and take the collectible kachra and dry and wet ways, and it would be managed. The waste management would be a reality. Sometimes 20 years back, people used to think, "Arey, har jagah kachra hai, everywhere is the problem, and everybody is this thing, this thing." But how things are changing. That's what I am loving about being alive in these times of the beautiful India that we are in. Of course, I would like to tell that, the vernacular systems have connected Lakshmi and Saraswati. Usually, Goddess Lakshmi is one which is with the talking about the money, wealth, and all this. So, digital wealth, of course, it is there. If you see any wealth of the country as resources and minerals or whatever it is, we are already wealthy. But educating them, people, and connecting it with the, so edutech things have come into picture. We know that how educational technology during the COVID emerged as handy to continue the education of millions of children who were studying, and how we could even phase that out in a way that now online and hybrid learning has become a very good reality, handy, and it is so flexible that I can learn at my own pace, in my own way. India has Swayam MOOC portals having more than 3,000 courses, and the handiness of it is such that anybody and everybody can empower themselves. You don't need to be with high class society only to use all these technologies. It is available to every bit of the person. Yes, we yet to develop the infrastructure, we are yet to develop certain things, but I see that there is a lot of awakening happening in all these sectors without much of the difficulties. It is happening and we are seeing it. And now coming to, infrastructure, I'm very happy that, Sujit spoke about infrastructure. Definitely, infrastructure is still an area where a huge growth is needed. We are trying, but I think a lot has to be done even now. There is a lot of ecosystem that needs to be developed. Huge demands are there from the people that even remotest part of India being electrified, having the internet there, or having the at least road, rail, and air connectivity, if possible. Air connectivities have not reached everywhere, but somewhere nearby you will find that every village or every tribal area also is somewhere connected. Within 3 to 4 hours, they can reach to a place from where they can take flights. And see that India has human capital. I always wonder the amount of human capital we have. We have never thought of exporting the human capital, though subtly we have been doing, supplying all the laborers and all the kind of nursing staff and all the kind of doctors to various nations. But this intellectual capital that we have, It is very high time that India also projects as one of those who can change the world in the yet to develop economies. We can help and support them with our intellectual capital. This is a very, very right time because we are capable of developing the architecture of AI, IT enabled services. We know the banking, infrastructure, insurances, health, education, all these sectors, including energy and renewable energy and all. We can handhold many countries. I'm very happy to share is a very small experience. Last 3 years as a director of NTPC School of Business, I suddenly thought that why not India is entering into the international skill building initiative in energy. And you would be amazed that within this less than 2.5 years, I have reached 59 countries to conduct the MDPs and capacity building programs in energy sector. That is a huge demand. And see, India has got all the capability. There are people, there are takers, but have we opened our eyes to this system? I could think, I could sense, and I could lead that. And I'm very, very happy that 59 countries is not a small thing at all. The entire global south we had been able to cover. So the intellectual capital utilization can also be one of the paradigm that we can look into, we can see, and we can be proud of. Coming to another thing where there are certain challenges, and I would also give some solutions as well while concluding. So, civic behavior, we are still to come out of the land of spitting everywhere, the land of pan spits everywhere, or land of uncivilized behavior. Of course, India is changing, but we are yet to get there. We are yet to get there. Because, developing business would need business etiquettes. Developing IT, it would need a calculative good behavior. Developing entrepreneurship, you need that kind of a civic sense of contributing to your country. There is a lot to be done. I have always believed that while IT was developing, there was a whole entire village somewhere deep in Bihar or Northeast. Everybody learned how to create a cyber crime gang. Why this was happening? Because we were not able to give them the kind of employment they are looking. They're very smart people, but we are always baffled or mark them with the degrees you have. If you have taken degree from the highest college, then only you have this role, that role, this thing, that thing. We have not yet opened on the skill based, the kind of vocational infrastructure that we could have given and they could have earned a decent earning. Because my belief is that if you can engage the youth socially, they will not get engaged anti-socially. Mark this as one liner, strong one line. Again, I repeat, if you can engage the youth socially relevant projects, then they will not get engaged into anti-socialism of any kind. Second thing which I always say, that a large potential is there. If you do not, it is like, Hanuman needing Jamvant, where if you can give them that confidence that, my dear, you can, you will, you have to, then definitely. And the resilience, I would also say that when well-being we are talking about, let us not forget that mental well-being and resilience, the tolerance, these things are getting vulnerable. I was surprised at 37% rise in the divorce rates in India. Who talks of family values? There is a sudden shift into things. Economic liberation does not mean that we culturally get shackled. It should not. Whereas progress has to be there, but can we see those hookers, those liners which need to be corrected at the nip of the bud, and can we do something into creating that kind of a behavioral, emotional setup and come out of the taboo of not speaking the mental issues or stress related issues in public or otherwise. And there are systems available in the academic world, in the corporate world, but what happens to those hundreds of thousands and lakhs of people, those who do not know where to go when they are distressed, where to go when they are facing any kind of challenges of harassment or any other thing. Sometimes I say that our parenting has to be questioned because we were deprived as our childhood. In our childhood, I hope everybody would agree, Ajay sir and Ajith sir and everybody, that we had deprivation. But we made sure that our children from school, when they come, there are bhais at home to take care, or maid is there at home if I'm a working mom. The food is always there. If they ask for one toy, we will be giving 5 toys. If they ask to go to Goa, you will take them to Mauritius, kind of that kind of a thing that we have given. But in turn, what has happened? They thought that it is my legitimate right. There had been a come of entitlement. That these are all my entitlement. What did you have done? So what earning that respectful whatever you want, that, and that's why they are not resilient. मैं कई बार कहती हूँ कि नमक के ढेले हैं, पानी पड़ते ही गल जाते हैं. That's the anything. Oh, मुझे depression हो रहा है. That's a very common word. Do you know the stress and depression and dissatisfaction and sadness has got so many different meaning? Just don't say मेरे को depression हो रहा है. We have created that kind of a youth, but I'm really sure that all the narratives would change if we have a careful education system, very careful development, and we are there to support as an academician and as an enterprise support systems. If we do that, and I would like to close by giving you an example. I belong to Udaipur all my life. I had been at Udaipur, though I have worked various places. But when I created 117 self-help group in 1997 to 2010 time, I know what kind of a difference. Make a Difference has got 6.5 lakh more than more than those number of people those have been impacted. So one person can also do this. Each one of us can do that. And self-help group, Kudumbashri in Kerala, all these things, I had been behind many such initiatives, and I feel proud that people have changed because of that. I'll give you a very simple example before closing that the Udaipur is a hotel industry. Lots of soaps, the bar soaps get there just for a day because the guest goes and then the hotel throws it out. We started collecting the used water bottles, used soaps and shampoo bottles. And what we did, we sanitized everything, making a kind of a bar soap again by diluting it and getting it frozen again, and small bar soaps for 1 rupee we started giving to various needy people at the village, those who still want a high class soap or good khushbu wala soap and not able to do it. We created entrepreneurship out of it. Rugs and clothes, rugs were made out of the clothes collected. The candles were collected and a new candle generation happened. Rakhi, bindi, you name anything. The jewelry that I'm wearing, everything is made by my tribal ladies because we started making them self-sustained, more respectable, earning financially and getting that dignity and respect. Nothing is impossible is my word. Only एक नियत साफ होनी चाहिए. Intentions are there. You can do wonders. Thank you so much. And I would love to hear back if anything is there for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Narendran, for your thoughtful insights and for highlighting the evolving contours of management education. Now the floor is open for questions.
Yes, I think first of all, students, if you have any question, and my faculty colleagues also, they can interact with all the distinguished speakers. We are very fortunate to have wonderful set of speakers and coming from diverse field, technology and psychoanalysis. Ma'am is expert on psychoanalysis, and Sujit ji, an economist here. So we are covering almost all major areas. Yeah, students, do you have any question? And my faculty member.
The no questions are dangerous. Either everything is understood or nothing is understood.
Ma'am, but you have such a diverse background. You are PhD from Harvard probably, and then you did like lot of program at IIM Ahmedabad and IIM Udaipur also.
Yes, sir. Yes.
An Academy of HRD you are associated with.
Yes, sir.
So we share the common background. I am from psychology discipline from Lucknow University.
Great, sir.
So, Nali, I
Interest.
believe the students are sending the question to you directly. Could you please?
Are you able to see the question, Sonali?
Maybe on your WhatsApp,
Yes,
can you
sir.
please look?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So we have,
First question is for Ajit, sir. How is artificial intelligence reshaping the traditional financial intermediation model?
I think that's probably a question that the economist should take rather than me, because it's more of a fundamental financial question than an artificial intelligence question. Because intermediation or disintermediation is a part and parcel of any industry cycle, but its larger financial implications is probably better taken by the economist than by an AI practitioner. Sir, I cede the floor to you.
Thank you, Ajith sir. See, the question is about AI, how it is shaping intermediations. In fact, that's what I was suggesting at, hinting at. See, the very routine measure of efficiency in banking is what you call cost to income ratio, right? So, how much it costs to provide a service or to generate a rupee of revenue. The cost to income ratio in banking sector today is closer to 50%. Now, if you have that is such a high cost structure, even if you wish to lower your lending rates, you will not be inclined to do that because you have to recover almost half of that cost. Do we need that kind of high cost structure? In fact, in last 10 years, since I mentioned about Jan Dhan Yojana and how it brought almost a similar size of customers to the existing customer base. See, bank branches has gone up from close to 1 lakh 20,000, 25,000 to 1,60,000 today. So addition of roughly 35,000 branches has happened. ATMs meanwhile have gone from 2 lakh to close to 2.5 lakh. So addition of 50,000 of ATMs. And UPI from zero to today, billions, 20 billion transactions are processed. 28 trillion rupees of value is getting processed every month. Now, that's the scale up which has happened in a decade's time. Right. So it's not that technology has not enabled it. And if had it been one-to-one kind of scale up, what you call constant returns to scale kind of operation in economics, then the workforce that was serving to back then 35 crore customers was close to 14 lakh. Half of them in public sector, half of them in private sector. In fact, little higher in public sector. Even today, the workforce is close to 16 lakh. So the workforce has not expanded in banking industry per se, while the customer base has doubled. Transaction volumes have quadrupled in fact. And today digital transactions form 80% of total transaction volume, within which UPI has a bigger share. So the nature of intermediation has changed. There is no denial of it. But the cost of intermediation has not gone for that change. What was the hope for when any CEO plans for technology intervention, the first thing they have on mind is whether it will enhance their revenue and whether it will be able to bring down cost. Revenue side, we might agree because you are able to service more number of customers with the existing number of staffs. But on the cost side, that's not visible. And that is where we have to evaluate the new technology, even AI, for instance, whether AI will be able to bring those kind of savings. If it can, then perhaps the cost of intermediation might come down. Then perhaps the NIM, which we are so proud of, 3% plus kind of net interest margin. So net interest margin, for the audience who doesn't know, is a difference of what you charge on your loans, what you call yield on advances, and what you are paying to your depositors, so cost of deposit, right? So that is where we have to be clear. The next future is about that only. So the fintechs that I was mentioning about, the early age fintechs, they promise that, let's say we also got payment bank license somewhere around 2016. Now, payment bank licenses were given with the sole mandate that people who have high cost, service requirement, they should be able. We should actually shift them to this route of service delivery. They don't need financial consultancy or advisory, which fully manned branches are promised to do. Essential services, keeping deposits in savings account, able to settle payments from deposit to deposit accounts. If required, some sort of unsecured loan in form of credit card, for instance. These are very simple solutions which were required for majority of newly onboarded customers. But if a full service branch is going to serve them, they will load all the operational cost on all the customers. So the entry point requirement become itself a barrier. One of the reasons why banks were forced in a way by the policy side to have a campaign like onboarding of customers was this only. On their own, they would not have gone. So the AI actually promises to deduplicate certain tasks. It promises to prioritize certain tasks, so that the high cost resources are meant to serve high cost, high revenue clients, while the routine requirements can be delegated to technology, and so that you are able to optimize on the cost structure. See, even India, we also have a paradox here. I will give you what the paradox is. So we all talk about this in banking very often. If it is meant to be like that, if technology is meant to ease our work, none of the bankers, I'm telling you, none of the bankers are able to end their day's business by 6 p.m. and go back home. They're all overburdened. The more technology we are onboarding, it seems the working hours are getting bigger and bigger. So it is not even saving the work of the existing employees of banking sector. Whether AI would be able to optimize that, it will. You start thinking through, you will find different paradoxes working at the same time, right? But eventually, I will be satisfied the day when the greater majority of India, which have a per capita closer to $1,500, they are not meant to pay like they are having per capita of $10,000. That is the kind of differentiation we want in the service delivery, service models of financial enterprises. I hope that some sort of answers your query. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. So the next question is for Rajeshwari ma'am. Ma'am, the question is, if India aims to be a global energy leader, what role must management institutions play in shaping that ambition?
That's a great question. Thank you for putting that question. Definitely, as I said, that India is moving aggressively in every sort of energy dynamics. And what we need to do is that, see, sustainability, environment related education, these are all inbuilt. It has to be more rigorously inbuilt. It is already there in the school education, because that comes a lot of practice. But as the technology STEM is growing, I also see that the schools and colleges and the technology institutions and management institutions are also being sensitized to take care of all these requirements of the country and how can they contribute. So very recently, I was in an AICT's committee where they were looking at that how can energy technologies can be embedded into various engineering colleges and management colleges, and we have suggested a very good framework, and I'm very happy that it would be released pretty soon, because we are telling that what are all, see, there are 14 to 15 areas where all the technology institutions can grow, whether it is already, see, electricity, electronics, these things, these are all there, already there in the system. But what we are looking at is very specific courses on hydrogen economy, looking at the discoms, looking at the power generation, renewable energy, even biofuel kind of a thing, or in the EVs or the automobile industry which is ready for the future, or carbon management, carbon audit, carbon finance, or carbon trading. All these kinds of courses can be taken up by various institutions, and when there is a kind of 360-degree effort, definitely India from fourth position can move to 2 very easily in 10 years time. So, we need to have those kind of education. We are having NTPC School of Business is one niche management, energy management school, which offers 50% of the subject in energy and 50 into management. But then R&D, research and development is a huge thing that needs not only the investment, but also, again, the intention of the schools and business schools and the technology schools to come forward and say that we are ready. And India, I think with, the kind of research funding the UGC is looking at and Ministry of Higher Education is looking at, it is very ambition plan already spread up. It is only for us to take it up and start giving the results to the country. I hope I have answered. Thank you.
Ma'am, we are not very far from NTPC Farakka plant.
Please explore. I would say please explore, and if anything is needed, you can reach out to me. I can definitely help.
Just half an hour away from Farakka plant.
Thank
You
you so
should
much,
also
ma'am.
come and see the place.
Yes, ma'am, we would love to host you. Please do join us here at MDI Murshidabad. आप
Very-
मेरी तरफ से मैम ये ओपन इनविटेशन लीजिए, प्लीज डू जॉइन अस मैम. आई विल मेक श्योर दैट आप हमारे कैंपस में जून जुलाई की तरफ जरूर आए मैम, प्लीज.
एकदम जल्दी से आती हूँ. Thank you so much. Thank you.
And
And I have a meeting coming up, Jain sir. If you permit me, I
Yeah.
will need to, leave the session.
So before, I think just give us maybe 5 minutes and Yogita ma'am can pass on the vote of thanks.
Yes, ma'am.
And we can,
In fact, I'll go ahead and thank Dr. Rajeshwari Narendran before, and then we still have few questions left for Shri Ajith Nayar and Shri Sujit Kumar. So I'll go ahead and just pass on a quick vote of thanks for Srimati Rajeshwari Narendran instantly. Ma'am, we are extremely grateful for your insightful conversation on digital era narrative, the tonality of development, economic contribution of women through digitization, COVID, public-private partnerships, self-empowerment, human and intellectual capital. If you can engage in socially relevant projects, our youth will not become antisocial. That confidence that you have, the resilience that you believe in our youth, ma'am, all of these factors which you have spoken of, ma'am, they, as an educator for me, they highlight that this is our role for next 15, 20, 30 years. That this is how we are going to guide our children, our youth to now take on the world. Like you said that there is reverse brain drain, ma'am. Like you, I also have come back from US, so I know that we जो वहाँ पे होना था, that is all done. Now we have to develop our country. We all love our nation. We have to develop our country. And your insightful address has given so much of confidence that yes, I am on the right path. Yes, MDI Murshidabad is on the right path under the guidance of Shri Ajay Jain. I cannot tell you how many changes we have seen in last 1 year, ma'am, under his guidance. We have remarkably grown as an institution in last 1 year, ma'am. So it's grateful thanks to you, to our sir, for this insightful address that you've given to our conference, ma'am. Thank you so much for joining us. And ma'am, please, you may leave for your meeting. Very sorry that you're not there for the rest of the session.
22 का योगिता मैम 22 का इनविटेशन दे सकते हैं मैम को जो
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
जो हमारा कन्वोकेशन मैम and governor of West Bengal has kindly accepted the to
Sure,
be the
sir.
chief
Sure.
guest. Yeah.
Sure. I'd love to be.
Yeah.
Ma'am, I
11th
will reach out to you, ma'am, personally, and we'll have a conversation, ma'am. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for coming and
Thank you.
speaking to
Sorry,
us, ma'am.
Ajith and Sujit, your names are so rhyming, but I will have to leave because the meeting with my chairman is already scheduled. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Go ahead, ma'am. Go ahead.
Thank
Thank you,
you,
ma'am. Thank you. Sonali, if you have left, please carry on if there are a few questions so that.
Yes, sir. So the next question is for Ajith Nayar, sir. As AI adoption accelerates across industries, what in your view distinguishes organizations that successfully integrate AI from those that merely experiment with it?
Very good question, because it's exactly the kind of trap that we are in right now. Now, artificial intelligence today, for large enterprises, large corporates, unfortunately, it has become a talking point, which I think Sujit sir also referred to earlier during his talk. Every speech has to have some mention of AI in it, and every call that the CEO has with his investors, his board, and with the shareholders, some guy will turn up and ask, "What is your AI strategy?" And typically, that AI strategy is nothing more than a pilot. You would be surprised at the number of people who don the hats of Chief Digital Officer, Chief Transformation Officer, Chief Information Officer and Chief Technology Officer are currently passé. There is Chief AI Officer. You'll be surprised at the number of people who actually think Alexa is AI. Okay, I know this sounds controversial, but honestly, that is the truth. Because there is a huge lack of understanding as to how artificial intelligence needs to be put into an enterprise. And let's be clear, artificial intelligence, for it to be successful, has to be adopted by enterprises. Because finally, as a stream of technology, unless it is implemented, it makes no money. Right? So when people start talking about implementing artificial intelligence at scale, one of the most common mistakes that I've seen, and I've been dealing with them for the last 8+ years, is the question of, okay, how many people do I replace? Now, you can compare apples to oranges, right? And I think Sujit sir mentioned earlier, that outcomes are typically paradoxes because it need not necessarily be as impactful as you think it should be. We are in the very early stages of AI adoption in enterprises, let's be honest. Okay. I think the industries that are going to be mostly affected are the ones that have people doing jobs that are not something that they do very well. Okay, I'll give you a simple example again from my own industry. So what is CamCom? CamCom is essentially a world model built to identify defect and damage, defect during production and damage in the aftermarket on any product built in this world. Anything that is inorganic, right? Now, why are we successful compared to the others who are not as successful in enterprise adoption? It is because we do something that the human being is not particularly good at doing. Okay, because a defect or a damage is essentially a quality assessment parameter, isn't it? That is defined by humans, saying that where the answer is a binary, it's a yes or a no. It should not be a maybe, plausibly, potentially, possibly, no. It's a binary, yes or a no, right? Now, human beings, don't get me wrong, we have the world's best eyes, but we have an extremely subjective processor, which is our brain, right? In that brain, we come to decisions based on balance of consideration. Potentially, maybe all these things come into play. In addition to that, as humans, everything from which side of the bed we got up with, to whether we had pizza or biryani that day, to do I feel like bending down or standing up that day, everything has an impact, right? Now, a machine is by its very nature, and a camera really doesn't have fatigue, neither does it have mood swings. It essentially captures an image, and through the deep learning algorithms that have been created, comes to a decision based on a set of parameters as to whether this is a defect or a damage. And that it does objectively and consistently. The two things that the human brain typically finds it difficult to do. So when people ask me, has singularity been achieved? Yes, machines have achieved singularity a long time before, because machines were doing things way better than humans, because humans, by the very DNA through which we have been created, are not particularly good at doing things. Because a quality parameter is not a empathetical, emotional question. I'm not asking you who needs to be thrown off the boat when you are, with your wife and your mother-in-law. No, the question is, does this thing have a hole in it? Does this thing have a dent in it, right? So therefore, adoption will essentially be dependent on the amount of work that a human is being substituted for. And I'm being very honest here. But in today's world, the human is not being substituted. The human is essentially being enabled. His sensory faculties are being augmented, right? Because the human is not being taken out of the equation. And over a period of time, yes, once it reaches critical mass, once it reaches the kind of adoption that the world thinks it is okay for it to adopt, then yes, we'll get there. We work largely with regulated industries, insurance being another. We work with aircrafts. We work with defense equipment. There, the requirement is for that level of accuracy, that level of granularity, where the human has failed. Therefore, we become a natural customer. We become a natural collaborator in that sense. I see AI adoption happening in services industries. Typically, we spoke about UPI, we spoke about a lot of call centers. Call centers are going out of business anyway. But I think a lot of the agentic AI frameworks that we're currently talking about, specifically from the large language model perspective, is going to get to put to use in these industries. So those services will continue to be a major player. The human will reinvent. Now, the biggest issue here is obviously the fear of AI replacing human jobs. Now, I remember, and I think I was mentioning this to Dr. Jain, we started CamCom on September 7th, 2017. I think by March or April of that year, ASSOCHAM and METI selected us as the innovation of the year. Okay, and I, along with my dear friend and co-founder Umesh, was called to Delhi, and we were given a certificate by the then Minister of IT. I'm sorry, I forget his name. He handed over the certificate to me, and the first question that he asked me is, "How many jobs are you replacing?" And my answer to that was, "Sir, we are not." He said, "No, I don't believe you." So then I asked him, "Sir, you just hand over a certificate to me. What exactly did you give this to me for?" And he said, "Well, you have done a good job on defect assessment in the automotive industry and damage assessment in the insurance industry." I said, "Precisely. Now tell me, who invented the automobile?" He told me, "Henry Ford." I said, "No, sir, not Henry Ford. I mean, that's a typical mistake that most people make. It was by Daimler, okay, about 30 years before Henry Ford. But he never sold it to the common man. Henry Ford wanted to build cars that could be afforded by the very same people who were building the cars. That is his contribution, right? For which he had to identify a means, a process, an assembly line where this could be achieved. So he sent teams across the world and essentially figured out that the best thing lay right next door, which is the meatpacking district of New York, where butchers were essentially cutting carcasses based on their skill with regards to how to cut a specific cut of the meat. He put that to work. Then that was in 1902. 1914, World War I happened. We still had 100 million horse carts and mule carts. Then subsequently, 14 years later, World War II happened. We had 0 horse carts and 0 mule carts. Does that mean all those 100 million cart drivers became automobile drivers? No. Because the automobile opened out a completely new way for economic expansion. It created opportunities that people didn't believe existed. Something as simple as supply chain logistics, to containers, to warehousing, to you name it. It suddenly opened out the entire world. AI, as it keeps getting introduced into the enterprise system, will continue to open these doors to newer opportunities. And those newer opportunities are where people in MDI are going to find their jobs. So keep your eyes open. The whole world is today an opportunity, and it is greenfield. I hope I have answered the question.
Thank you, sir. As we approach the conclusion of this inaugural session, we invite Professor Yogita, Conference Chair, ICBIT 2026, to propose the vote of thanks. Ma'am, kindly take the floor.
Thank you so much, Vishaka. Distinguished dignitaries, respected speakers, Shri Ajith Nayar, Shri Sujit Kumar, and Srimati Rajeshwari Narendran, esteemed faculty members, students, ladies and gentlemen. As we draw curtains on this perspicacious session, I'm sorry, my words are slipping, it is my privilege and honor to propose the vote of thanks. First and foremost, we extend our deepest gratitude to our chief guest, Shri Ajith Nayar, whose insightful address was nothing short of a masterclass. You navigated us through the complex terrain of Indian economy, the nuances of nation building, the ethical frontiers of digital era with remarkable clarity. By framing our digital future through the lens of digital dharma, you have given us uniquely Indian philosophical framework to guide our policy and research with the thought when progress becomes humane, India will grow. Thank you so much for your time, your wisdom, and your passion. We are also profoundly grateful to our guest of honor, Shri Sujit Kumar, who engaged so thoughtfully with humankind survival, finance and technology paradox, thoughtful and conscious technology checks and balances, reducing intermediary costs. Sir, you have asked us to sit with the uncomfortable truths of our time. The fact that we can be more connected yet more isolated, more informed yet more confused. You have made sure that this was a vibrant dialogue for us to see where we are going to be heading into the future. Of course, Srimati Rajeshwari Narendran gave us very insightful side of the technology and digital era of India and what it can do to women empowerment and rural India. Last but not the least, I want to thank Shri Ajay Kumar Jain, our Honorable Director at MDI Murshidabad, whose vision and support has made this conference possible. I'm so grateful for his insights that he has brought to our campus over the last 1.5 years. Sir, under your leadership, we have grown by leaps and bounds. And I want to take this public platform to thank you so much for your insights and your leadership, sir. I also want to thank the organizing committee, the students, the staff members who have made this conference possible, to the conveners for curating this space where such critical conversations can flourish. I want to thank the behind the scenes team, the tech team, the registration team, the student organizing committee, who have made sure that everything went throughout the conference unhitched. To the esteemed audience, you have been a heartbeat of this session. Your attentive ears, your thoughtful questions, and your engagement are what is transforming a speech into a movement. Thank you for your time to invest in understanding of how we can build a more humane digital future. Let us carry this discussion into our research lab, our workplace, our policy corridors. Let us all work together to make India great. Let's all accomplish the vision of India 2047, sir. Thank you so much for joining us at this conference, sir.
And
With that,
can we extend the invitation to Ajith and Sujit, sir, regarding our convocation?
Yes, sir. We at MDI Murshidabad would be very gratefully honored, sir, if you can join us for our convocation on 22nd March, sir. We are going to send you the formal invitations and we hope to see you there, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Sure.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Ajith, sir, Governor has accepted the invitation, so you are kindly invited. And Sujit, sir.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
So we are going to welcome him, and a few good things we are going to do, and trying to maybe unveil the statue of Netaji on that day, and maybe 100 feet of tricolor on that day.
Excellent. So all the very best to you, and I'm sure the Honorable Governor is an extremely good orator. He'll
Yes,
definitely add value to this. Unfortunately, I will take a rain check on the invitation. I'm not in the country that month, but
Okay.
I will definitely take up the invitation to come there very soon.
Sure, sir. And Sujit, sir, extended invitation to you also.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Jansen.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
everybody.
Good
Thank
day.
you. Yeah, good day. Yeah.
Over
All
to
the-
you, Sonali. Please conclude the session.
With that, we formally conclude the inaugural ceremony of ICBIT 2026. We thank all our distinguished speakers and participants for their gracious presence and look forward to a day of engaging and meaningful deliberations. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you.
Sonali, thank you so much, Vishaka.